Welcome to the All Facts Matter podcast, where we push back against corporate media propaganda with facts, evidence, and data. I'm Peter, the author of All Facts Matter. Let's begin. There is no denying that the April Personal Income and Outlays report was good news for the Trump administration, as it heralded continued disinflation despite the ongoing hoopla over tariffs. As I noted last week, the Cleveland Fed's inflation nowcast was not optimistic enough in projecting ongoing disinflation for April. Unlike many earlier reports, however, the April PCE report is relatively strong all the way through, as inflation simply has not yet appeared in the economy despite the many predictions to the contrary. The headline numbers were unexpectedly good, with headline inflation coming in at 2.1% year-on-year and core inflation printing at 2.5% year-on-year. Month-on-month, the numbers ticked up for March, although not nearly as great as March's drop from February. After having trended up since late summer of last year, the drop in month-on-month inflation rates appears to be a permanent trend reversal. The price rises that were presenting as late as February are simply no longer present in the PCE price index as of April. While energy price inflation returned month on month, the trend going back into December of last year is still very much a disinflationary one. And after spiking in March, food prices plunged 0.27 percentage points in April. The only notable exception to the month-on-month disinflationary trend was in durable goods, which saw prices rise dramatically, even as non-durable goods continued March's deflationary trend. Overall, the price elements in the PCE price index either fell or slowed dramatically in their rise during April. Indisputably good news for consumers, particularly in the face of the negative press over the Liberation Day tariffs. We should not presume that the tariffs have not been a factor. They have, and so has Trump's iconoclastic Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Perhaps the most visible impact of DOGE has been in stabilizing various government transfer or welfare payments. In March and April, while the size of the transfer payments did not fall, they especially did not rise. Given the tendency of transfer payments to run on autopilot through most administrations, that the Trump administration has succeeded in halting their rise for at least a couple of months is a decided win for the administration and for the likely catalyst to the spending freeze, DOGE. The impact of the Liberation Day tariffs come in as a network effect from March's surge in personal consumption expenditures. That March spike represented a front-loading of a lot of consumer demand, almost certainly because of consumer fear about possible tariff-driven price increases. However, front-loading of demand does not increase aggregate demand, but merely shifts it in time. Thus, the March consumption surge becomes a tapering off in consumption for April. And this is particularly evident in consumption expenditures for durable and non-durable goods, which shrank in April. And even service spending growth slowed in April. While the lack of inflation in any given month is welcome, the significant inflation itself is always in the longer-term trend. Are prices going to rise or fall as we move into the summer? While much depends still on the outcome of various trade talks and tariff threats, when we look at a lot of the cost drivers for inflation, we do not see significant inflationary forces building at this time. Oil prices have been trending down since Liberation Day. And even retail prices, gasoline prices are trending down, with both AAA and Gas Buddy charting price declines extending into May. The broad energy price declines are part of an overall drop among input prices. And even if we focus on commodity indices themselves, we still see broad decline since Liberation Day. Most remarkably, import prices have not trended up at all since April of 2024. While we should never say there is no possibility of inflation rising over the near term, at present, there are few of the predicate forces needed to push prices up. Until that changes, the likelihood of an uptick in inflation is low. We should note that, at present, the Liberation Day tariffs have largely not taken effect yet. Their impact on prices thus far has largely been an anticipatory reaction to their announcement. Whether we would see significant inflation return should the tariffs be enforced in full and across the board remains very much an open question. With trade talks between the Trump administration and most trading partners still ongoing, there are no clear predictions which can be made regarding the ultimate impact of the tariffs. Clearly, as corporate media has been constantly reminding us, if the tariffs are applied in full, we could see substantial price increases along with substantial disruptions to the flow of consumer goods. However, a curious side effect of the media's constant pearl clutching over the tariffs very likely has been to spook consumers, potentially magnifying the drop in consumer demand after March's exercise in front-loading demand. An overall drop in consumer demand is going to push prices down regardless of what the tariffs have or have not done yet. Corporate media may very well have helped President Trump beat inflation for a second month simply by being their usual Trump deranged selves. Irony abounds. If the tariffs result in good trade deals, which would mean that most of the reciprocal tariffs would not be applied, the final inflationary impact from the tariffs will largely be mitigated by improved trade. Even if the tariffs ultimately are applied, the longer they hang out there as a future possibility, the more opportunity businesses will have to find alternative sourcing for various products, thus sidestepping at least some of the tariffs. We should not presume that inflation has been completely conquered by the Trump administration. It hasn't, and it won't be. Inflation does not get conquered. It merely does not get made worse by the incumbent presidential administration. However, until many of the ongoing macroeconomic trends change, President Trump can look forward to ongoing disinflation for the next few months at least. That will be a clear political win for President Trump and a clear economic win for the American consumer. And that concludes this presentation. I hope you found this podcast helpful and informative. Please like it and share this with your friends. Word of mouth is how I publicize my work. Please also consider making a one-time donation or becoming a paid subscriber to All Facts Matter. Your support is what keeps this work going, and I greatly appreciate all of my subscribers. Without you, this work would have no meaning. I encourage everyone to be especially generous with feedback. Leave a word or two in the comments section so that we can keep the discussion going and that we may learn from each other. Thank you all for listening, and have a nice day.